Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for all the feedback we received about this blog. We're loving doing it. We're loving your feedback. I'm sitting in the backyard of my home here in Costa, Mesa, California. You'll hear the planes going overhead. You'll hear the joyous cackle of the children playing in the school behind us and the park next door. But we have purposefully wanted to frame today's conversation and where the Genesis community began. We began here around this beautiful table, around a barbecue, and me saying to the Lord, well, if it can include the narrative of doing life together, we are totally invested. This morning we want to explore the idea of the Ephesians 4 gifts in the life of the church planter and the church plant itself. Now, we touched a couple of weeks back on Ephesians chapter 2 verse 20, that the foundations are laid by the apostles and prophets, and we said it's not the Old Testament and the New. These are the specific giftings Jesus has given his church, the domata in the Greek. And we want to pick up on that a little more. I am fairly persuaded it's one of the reasons why church plants fail or succeed, and that is the acknowledgement and the investment of these 5 giftings that the Bible so clearly communicates are available to us. It's the apostle, the prophet, the evangelist, the pastor, and the teacher in Ephesians chapter 4. And Ephesians beautifully communicates that as Jesus ascended, as he went back to be with his Father, he gave gifts to men and women, I believe, to help the church do these things. Number 1, to bring unity, that we're part of a bigger story. Number 2, to equip the saints for the work of the ministry, that is to empower everyone on this great gospel adventure. Number 3, it is to ensure that we are maturing, growing up in everything. And then, of course, there's just the privilege of encouragement, edification, and strengthening. So what I want to do just for a few moments is talk around why each one of these domata, these gifts, are essential to a healthy church. Let's start from the bottom and work our way backwards. I think the first is the teacher. I think the teacher is an extraordinary gift to the church. In an age of such relativism, in an age of such subjective translation and interpretation of life and the scriptures, the teacher comes and anchors us around the scriptures. That's their joy. That's their passion. That's their yardstick of success and health. How well are we managing, exegeting, and living the text? And so many a church planter wants to move forward, wants to grow, wants to be vital and exciting. But if we don't anchor it around the scriptures and the unique gifting that the teacher gives, we sometimes end up in a very weak and vulnerable place. Secondly, the pastor. Now, some people do make them one gift, and I understand that the Greek leaves us that kind of conversation. But experientially, I found some are very specifically pastors. They have a unique ability to nurture, to invest into, to pour into a journey from immaturity to maturity, from youthfulness to adulthood. And they add incredible value to the church planter and to the church plant that they love, that they cared for, and that they're doing a good job or not. The evangelist. The evangelist is obviously the one who keeps us looking towards those who are far away from God. Their frustration is a lack of evangelism in the local churches. Their passion is to see men and women, boys and girls, come into a living faith. In Southern California here, most church plants experience the whims of those who rotate every 6 months to a year from one church to the next to the next. They flatter. The idea that, well, we've grown by 50 people, we've grown by 100 people, is simply the regular rotation of people falling in love with the church, falling out of love with the church, and moving to the new, sexy, vibey church. Well, the evangelist is never satisfied by that. Their longing and their passion is that our hearts are broken for those who are far away from the Lord and bring us back into that great and glorious adventure. And we so sorely need more and more evangelists of this ilk. The prophet. We touched on the prophet the other day, but let me add to it just a moment. The prophet, I think's primary affection is for the person, presence, and power of the Holy Spirit. They want to see more and more of the Holy Spirit amongst us. That doesn't always make them popular, because many a church wants to lower their spirit activity to what is culturally acceptable, and so we write the prophets out of the story, because sometimes their contribution is awkward or different or seemingly strange. But boy, do we need them. Do we need their hunger for the Holy Spirit and their ability to equip us to discern His presence, honor Him richly, beware of grieving Him. And we love the prophetic ministry and what it adds into the life of the church plant. And lastly, the apostle. I used my thumb as the evidence of the apostle because someone as well said it's the one gift that holds all the other gifts together, and I think there's some merit in there. The apostle is the sent one, apostolos, the herald of truth, of course. But then we dig a little deeper and we see Paul in Corinthians talking about the apostle being a master builder, a foundation layer, but then teaching us how to architect and build the church that resides in our hearts. Every generation has the architecture of the church that they want, that they see passionate faith for. And like David, who served the purposes of God in his generation, our task is to allow every church to explore and every generation to have the adventure of what that architecture must look like for them. A church in a village in Pakistan cannot and will not look in shape and form like a church in Paris or like a church here in Southern California. So the apostles do not impose a monoculture, a one-size-fits-all, but rather help discover and explore what church planting looks like, how we can plant according to that dream, ensuring that it remains within the context of the text, and then provide ongoing love, support, friendship, and empowerment. Now, there's so much more one can say about all of these things, but I want to pique your curiosity. Maybe the reason why your church plant is faltering or stumbling or have hit a kind of a pause button, maybe it's because there is this incredible volume of truth and gifting that Christ has made available that can help your church take the next step forward. It's been our privilege just sharing these thoughts with you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your feedback. And I trust this is helpful as we explore church planting in this time, in this age. God bless you all.